Reiner, you went literally to West Virginia to play Fallout 76?
Yeah, they said I didn't actually need to go to the location of the game.
Right.
So I was super confused for a while, but they flew some people out, brought me the game.
That's very nice.
Played it with the Mothman.
All your best friends.
All those attractions.
John
yeah.
Denver, all the greatest hits over there. What was it? This was a big event. You were playing with other people from the press.
Yeah, there was about, I want to say over 100 journalists, influencers, third parties, like Major Nelson was there.
Wow.
So yeah, they brought everyone together to play Fallout 76 for the first time.
Okay, you went in, I felt like more optimistic about Fallout 76 than most people. Coming off like your Todd Howard interview, you were like, it seems like it could be interesting.
Yeah, like he had a lot of the right answers and made it sound like more like a traditional Fallout experience, whereas at E3 it sounded more like a survival game.
Yeah.
Where you're taking care of hunger and thirst and you got to protect your settlement and you could PvP and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has quests and all that stuff that you expect from the Fallout experience. So I had an open mind going into it. I hadn't seen anything from it, just short clips. And most of the stuff I learned about it was in those Vault-Tec animated shorts, which is weird. I mean, if you really think about it, they've shown more of that than in-game footage.
Maybe, yeah.
So I was excited. And yeah, we got to play it for 3 straight hours at the
Beginning
event.
of the game, right?
Right out of the vault.
Okay, and then what is your high-level takeaway from that experience?
I don't know.
That is shocking to me.
Yeah, so I'm on the fence. I mean, that's where I am, right? Like, I played for 3 hours, but in that time, there are so many gameplay systems and things you could do, and it takes so much time to get from point A to point B that I felt like I was barely scratching the surface of it. And this is a series that basically Bethesda Game Studios games are 100 hours plus, right? Like, that's usually your A to B playthrough, and anything on top of that is just side quest, like, so 3 hours is barely the tutorial, but I had fun. I enjoyed my time, but my big takeaway was the world felt kind of empty and dead, and part of that's by design, right? Like,
right.
it's a
more so
prequel.
than like other Fallout games even?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously it's a wasteland again, but this time around, you are the first humans to emerge since the bombs have fallen, apparently.
Right.
Or the ones that, like, you're the first ones to come out at a safe point. So it's like The Walking Dead a little bit in that you're just like a small group of people and you find the remains of humans everywhere. So there isn't that aspect of going into a town and communicating with people and learning about that place and having that kind of grounding moment of like, oh, I'm just this, small fish in this big pond.
And they don't have like robots doing the equivalent of that?
There are robots you could communicate with, but they just really like saying hello. They don't really give you much context. Most of the world building,
What?
Most of the world building comes from audio files that you're finding and terminals that you get to go and, like traditional Fallout, go in and start reading documents.
Yeah.
Now, I was like starting to get into that. Like, I got an audio file and I started listening. And then the guys I was playing with from IGN and GameSpot just wouldn't shut up, and they just started talking. And I was like, wait, I'm in a multiplayer group. Reading and listening to audio files are the last thing you want to do in a situation like that because everybody's going to be talking. You can't be like, hey, shut up, IGN, for like just 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I need to listen to this audio file.
We've tried that so many times.
To get some hot lore on Fallout 76. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah.
So maybe that design favors solo play a little more.
Does it feel soloable? I know they say that,
It
but
does.
it's just going to feel a little empty.
Yeah, exactly. Like Jeff sat in all of my gameplay. You could see it on YouTube and GameInformer.com. We have
3
it in
hours.
4K. Yeah. He sat in on it, and that was your big takeaway too. Was it just feels like kind of an empty world?
It feels like an absolutely empty world. And the thing with like the Fallout lore, they say like, okay, you're the first people to emerge from the first vault or whatever, to wander around. There's like dead raiders and humans everywhere, and they're not like skeletons. These are like people that probably don't even start to stink yet. It looks like you just barely missed them. Like
Really?
It just seems very strange where there's like all these raider corpses everywhere, and you're like, looks like there was some kind of shootout here.
Yeah, so it's not just,
some fun occurred before I darkened this
Hey, what's going on
doorway.
over here? Oh, man.
yeah, you're not seeing just like stains on walls. You're seeing like humans laying around with like axes in their chests.
Yeah.
And part of it's kind of neat because you're like, okay, what happened here,
Yeah.
and then you start piecing that paper trail together, like a literal paper trail in the game.
But it's not like it's happening in Arizona where you're like, okay, they're like partially mummified remains.
Yeah.
Like it's West
West
Virginia.
Virginia,
It's like
yeah.
PU. I mean, like those bodies would be moldering and like.
Yeah, and it's just weird, I guess, if it keeps on happening. Because, like, seeing a couple of those, it's like, oh, this is an interesting thing that I just missed. But eventually it just feels like I'm being robbed of interactions.
Exactly. That's what it felt
Yeah,
like.
and that was the big. I mean, people in the comments too on our YouTube videos, just like everybody's saying the same thing. So we'll see. Like that was just my experience in there. Maybe there are areas you get to that, like one thing too. Like all my combat encounters were very quick, and everything just completed very quickly. There wasn't like a big kind of dungeon like area I went to. That could just be my bad in the way I played it. But you know, I took on a number of quests, and they were all just kind of bouncing from point A to point B very quickly.
There were areas though, like you'd be like in this like building with the lights are off, and you're kind of navigating this space that in a traditional Fallout game, and I fully recognize this is not a traditional Bethesda Fallout game, would be populated with enemies or traps or something interesting happening while you're navigating it. And instead, it was just you and your co-op friend walking around looking for whatever button you needed to push to cash in the quest. And it just did not seem interesting.
Dan, do you think anybody, like your friend group, are going to get into this? Do you have any Rust buddies that this is appealing for?
Yeah, you know, I've got the group. We have lots of questions. And, even after the 3 hours of footage, I think we still have more questions than answers. And that is my big question for Reiner. And I don't know if he can answer it. And that is, who is this game for? Is it for my group of Rust buddies?
It's in a weird spot. It really is, because it's like a new game, right? Like they didn't give it a 5. It's not Fallout 5. They know it's a unique thing, so they gave it, you know, they called it Fallout 76. But most of the DNA is Fallout 4, right? Like it still feels like Fallout 4, the gameplay, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, obviously VATS has taken on a new identity because it's in real time. But yeah, I don't know who it is for. Like, again, I enjoyed playing it. I had fun running around, kind of like in Borderlands, you know, just running around and doing different things with buddies. And
Right.
I think that's always fun, right? But how long that remains fun in Fallout, how long that remains interesting in Fallout 76 is the big question. And 3 hours is not nearly enough time to figure that out.
So that's a question.
There's
actually.
warning signs, right? Like
Right.
definitely the alarm sounding in my head, like, I don't know about this one.
Nuclear launch detected.
So does it have like a progression loop that the Borderlands group that I play with would get into? Is that, I guess that's a question. Like
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's, you know, like I was getting into the card collecting, where that's the new special system where you apply different cards for your skills. And so there's that element of loot crates kind of where you just don't know what you're getting. Baseball cards, so you just kind of open a pack and, oh, cool, this seems like a cool perk. I'm going to apply that.
Yeah.
I was getting into that. And then just leveling, you know, it's like I see guys with power armor. It's like, well, I want that. But that's the loop on every Fallout ever, right? Like that's part of the end game or mid game where you get your big armor and then you could go in radiation.
What was VATS like in real time?
A mess.
Really?
An absolute mess. Like, yeah, maybe I just suck, but when enemies move as quickly as they do, especially with the frame rate kind of falling apart at times,
Oh.
Yeah.
when you put VATS on them, you know, it's like the old system where you see the percentage,
Yeah.
and as they move, it'll either grow or shrink. But the genius of VATS of old, which made it so, like, I never even thought about this, is they changed the camera views. So the camera's on you, and then it's on the enemy. They don't show that you're not actually aiming at the enemy. They just kind of
Technically,
show
okay.
there's kind of a magical moment where it's just, boom, did it hit or not?
Right.
This one, it'll be like, if the enemy's over there and I'm kind of pointing here and it's at 20%, the bullet's going to kind of go this
Go
way.
sideways out the gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Wanted style bullet bending.
Yeah. So there's that magic's
Really?
kind of that the cameras they used to hide that magical moment. You just now see it clear as day.
You would think they'd work hard to mask that or do anything they can technically, because
No.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably dopey looking. To see
It's
it
one of
happen,
those-
you're like, wait, what? That guy's taking damage, and you're like, blam, blam, blam. And this guy's like, bleh.
I guess XCOM always had a little bit of that, where like sometimes
well,
the shooting would be
XCOM's got
fun.
plenty of that.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll work well with like sniper rifles, stuff like that at range, or against slow moving enemies.
Right,
You know,
right.
but for like the crowd control where the ghouls are just running at you, it was a mess. Like I was like, I just look like an idiot using this.
When's the beta?
End of October. There's the stress test this weekend on Xbox One for insiders.
Oh, okay.
So they get first crack, and it's not everybody gets into it. But and then everyone who pre-ordered gets into the Break It Early test application at the end of October on Xbox.
It's cute.
And then a week later on PS4 and PC.
Yeah, I do love them like couching the beta for like calling it, hey, break it early, all that stuff, like just leaning into the fact like let's tear this sucker apart because I'm sure it's just going to get shattered.
And I know I sound negative, and part of my takeaway is like I'm worried about it, but at the same time, I did have a good time. I just needed to spend more time with it to really develop a true opinion of what I was playing.
Yeah.
Did you get any sense of what the end game could be
Well,
like?
there's nukes. Yeah,
Right.
You launch nukes, and then I mean, we got to see it hitting. We couldn't enter that end game zone where there's higher level enemies and then the rare loot.
Right.
So that's part of the end game. I don't know what else there is, if there's like, end game quests,
Right.
Stuff like that, but we'll have to wait and see.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.